I want to talk about speed limits and why speed limits absolutely make zero sense. So I was driving from Pennsylvania back home to Connecticut, and I was passing through New York, and the speed limit on the highway was like 65. Everybody was going about 90 to 95 miles an hour on this highway. Then we passed some cops, all using radar because I had my radar detector on, so clearly they were tracking everyone's speed. They didn't pull anyone over. As everyone is ripping like 90 miles an hour past these cops, they didn't seem to care. I don't understand what these cops were even looking for if everyone's going 90 and not a single car gets pulled over. That makes no sense. But then you go 5 miles over anywhere else and they'll pin you, and it makes no sense. Speed limits to me make zero sense. I am a car enthusiast, as likely all of you probably are if you're watching this video. I like to drive my car. I like to push this car as much as I realistically can on public roads. And when I say that, I mean I like to make sure that I drive safely. Speeding and driving safe can coexist, guys. For some reason, every Karen on Facebook seems to think that driving fast and being safe cannot coexist together. It boggles my mind how just people don't think logically about things. If I'm driving on a straight road with a car that is capable of doing, 155 miles an hour, and let's say the speed limit is 40, and I'm driving, let's say 45, some Karen is gonna say, oh my God, he's going over the speed limit. He's so dangerous, take away his license, as she goes 35 on that same road. And now let's say they decide to raise the speed limit. Let's say they raise the speed limit on that straight, beautiful road to 65 miles an hour. I drive 70, and let's say Karen now decides to drive 55 miles an hour. Oh no, he's driving 70, he's so unsafe, he's so dangerous for the roads. As you drive 55 when a week ago when the speed limit was 40, you thought everything was unsafe over 40. That is how these people think. They look at the sign on the side of the road and say, oh, 40, that is the safe limit, that is it. Anything above that, unsafe, completely just unbelievable that people will drive faster than that. I don't understand the thought process. Everyone is going to drive generally the speed that they feel comfortable and safe driving. And a lot of times, that speed is well over the speed limit. How often do you see on the highways the speed limit be 55 and yet everyone still cruises 80? Like 25 miles per hour over the speed limit and everyone's safely cruising, no headaches, no problem. Cops are right there next to you doing the same speed, and everyone is safe and everything is honky-dory. It just works, right? Just like you don't see people whipping 80 miles an hour down school zone residential areas. Occasionally you might see it and that's genuinely a problem, but for the most part that doesn't happen. People drive the speed that they feel safe and comfortable driving, as long as obviously they're thinking straight, thinking rationally, and they're not, trying to impress someone and doing stupid shit. The other issue with speed limits too is that they're not even limits. The speed limit is what you're expected to drive at. How are you gonna make a speed limit 40 miles an hour, but then expect people to drive at 40 miles an hour at the limit? Like, what? Like, is it a limit or is it a guide speed? Like, how are you gonna have a speed limit on the highway of 65 miles an hour where that's the limit? That is the upper end of how fast you should be going. But then you're expected to drive 65 miles an hour on that limit. Otherwise, you're unsafe and going too slow. And then, typically, they allow you to go about 5 miles an hour over the limit anyway as like a grace period, at least in my state. It's like a 5 mile an hour grace. So if the limit's 65, you could go 70. Again, what sense does that make? In what world do you set a limit of 65 and then allow people to exceed the limits, even though everyone still is gonna exceed it by 20, 30 anyway? If you're gonna have a speed limit, make it an actual hard limit. If the speed limit currently on a highway is 65, set like a hard speed limit of like 90 and a guide speed of like 65, 70. That would tell people, all right, the general speed that people drive here is 70. That's what we recommend, but do not exceed 90, and do that for all roads. That to me makes more sense as an actual speed limit instead of having these ultra conservative limits that don't make any sense to begin with. And what gets me too is that cops will pull over people going 5 miles an hour over the limits in the middle lane of the highway, but they won't pull someone over blocking traffic in the left passing lane. Or for you guys in England, I'm guessing it's on the right lane. The cops aren't gonna pull over people going too slow, causing us to weave so that we can get around people. It is literally just revenue generation. That's why I have zero respect for the cops that only do traffic stops. Like if you're pulling people over for red lights and things that are genuinely dangerous, you know, if you're running red lights, if you're drifting through corners, okay, fine, I get it. But the ones that just, like state cops, that just sit there in the median and do nothing but just generate revenue, like you do nothing but just harass the people that safely know how to drive, but you do nothing about anything else people do on the road. People will sit on high beams, blinding traffic, causing you to swerve all over the road because you can't see, but the cops don't do anything about it. You have cars driving 50 in the left lane, causing jams, causing people to weave, but they'll pull over the car that's weaving and not the person causing the problem. Sure, have like speed limits in school zones and places that genuinely make sense and actually adhere to them. The other thing too is in my state, in one of the towns on like the outskirts of Connecticut, they installed speed cameras now through this one area where people used to drive too fast, I guess. The company that produced the cameras and that operates it for the police gets X amount of money for each ticket that it issues. Like, explain to me how that is not just revenue generation. This video, like I said, is a big rant, and it's just me rambling about speed limits and things that are never gonna change. But as a car guy and as you guys being car people, I'm sure we all share these same frustrations. So it makes sense for me to voice my frustrations and voice my opinions on it, because at the end of the day, that's what I'm here for on YouTube, right? To give my opinion, and whoever listens, listens. So if you listen to this point in the video, if you liked my video, if you agree with me, leave me a like. If you disagree, let me know why. Leave me a comment. Tell me why you disagree. Subscribe. Thank you guys so much for watching. Until next time.